Manipulators rarely raise their voice or openly dominate. Instead, they quietly steer the flow of a conversation. Imagine sitting with a friend, sharing something personal, only to notice how the topic suddenly drifts back to their story. That subtle shift wasn't random. It was intentional. By guiding dialogue, manipulators control what gets attention and what gets ignored. Psychological research shows this isn't just casual. It's a social dominance tactic. When they redirect your focus, they're essentially rewriting the script of reality in real time. You stop being the main character in your own story. Think of it like chess. Every sentence is a move, and while you're busy reacting, they're strategizing 3 steps ahead. If you've ever left a conversation feeling unheard, chances are you just witnessed conversational ownership in action. And it works because it doesn't feel like control. It feels natural. By avoiding open confrontation, manipulators blend their influence into normal dialogue so you don't even realize you've been guided. The next time you're speaking with someone and notice your topic constantly gets recentered around them, recognize this as a deliberate manipulation, not just bad listening. Some manipulators win trust not by showing strength, but by pretending to be weak. They might share a heartbreaking story, reveal a personal struggle, or show emotional fragility at just the right moment. The goal? To lower your defenses. Humans are hardwired to help those who appear vulnerable. We instinctively want to protect, comfort, and support. But manipulators exploit this instinct. They weaponize vulnerability as a shield, making you less likely to question or resist them. Think about someone who constantly talks about how others mistreat them, yet somehow uses those stories to guilt you into doing favors. This is not true vulnerability, it's strategic vulnerability. And the scariest part, it makes you feel like a monster if you don't comply. After all, how can you say no to someone who just went through so much? Real vulnerability invites connection. Manipulative vulnerability, however, is carefully timed, rehearsed, and deployed with precision to control you. Reverse anchoring is one of the most elegant psychological tricks. The manipulator starts by suggesting something extreme, a ridiculous request, a huge price, or an impossible favor. Naturally, you reject it. But when they scale down to a smaller request, it suddenly feels reasonable. For example, imagine a salesperson suggesting a $2,000 product. You scoff. But when they show you the $500 alternative, it suddenly feels like a bargain, even if you didn't plan on spending that much. That's the anchoring effect at work. What makes reverse anchoring manipulative is its intentionality. They never expected you to agree to the extreme request. The real goal was to make the second option feel like a relief. Few tactics are as maddening as intentional misinterpretation. A manipulator will deliberately twist what you said into something you didn't mean, forcing you to backpedal and defend yourself. Picture this: you casually say, "I'm tired." The manipulator responds with, "So you're saying I don't do enough around here?" Suddenly, you're on the defensive, explaining yourself instead of discussing the real issue. This method shifts the power dynamic. The manipulator avoids accountability and forces you to fight battles you never chose. It derails the truth and makes you second-guess your own clarity. Here's the chilling reality: if someone repeats a lie enough times, it starts to feel true. This is known as the illusion of truth effect, and manipulators exploit it with terrifying precision. Think of smear campaigns, propaganda, or even toxic gossip. A lie repeated often enough doesn't just fool others. It seeps into your own mind until you start doubting your memory. This works because our brains equate familiarity with truth. The more often we hear something, the less effort we use to question it. Manipulators love this because they don't need proof. They only need persistence. Triangulation is when a manipulator drags a third party into the mix to control dynamics. Instead of addressing you directly, they say things like, "Well, even Sarah agrees with me," or everyone thinks you're overreacting. This tactic creates division. It makes you feel isolated while strengthening the manipulator's position. They turn allies into weapons, using relationships as leverage to control outcomes. It's often seen in toxic families, where one parent pits siblings against each other, or in workplaces, where managers use favoritism to keep people competing instead of uniting. Silence can be louder than words. Master manipulators use emotional withdrawal, pulling away affection, attention, or communication, to punish and pressure you. When someone shuts down during conflict, it leaves you scrambling to fix things. You start questioning yourself, apologizing, or bending just to regain emotional connection. This isn't a cooling-off strategy, it's a control strategy. Psychologists call this the demand-withdraw pattern. The manipulator demands change by withdrawing love, and because humans crave connection, the silence feels unbearable. This isn't about problem solving, it's about making you so uncomfortable that you comply. And the cruel twist, they'll act like you caused the distance. What makes these tactics terrifying is that they exploit natural human instincts. We all want to connect, to be understood, to belong. Manipulators weaponize these needs against us. For example, conversational ownership works because we crave being heard. Strategic vulnerability works because we care about suffering. Triangulation works because we fear rejection. These tactics don't succeed because we're weak. They succeed because we're human, and manipulators know exactly which strings to pull. But once awareness sets in, the spell breaks. When you can name the tactic, you strip away its magic. The truth is, knowledge is the only shield that works against covert influence. Consider the workplace where a boss repeatedly praises one employee while subtly excluding another. That's triangulation. Or the romantic partner who bursts into tears whenever you set a boundary, strategic vulnerability. Even advertising plays the game. Every limited time offer is a form of anchoring, making regular prices feel like deals. The key to spotting manipulation is paying attention to patterns. One instance might be coincidence. A repeated pattern, however, is a strategy. By linking these tactics to real-world examples, you can see just how often they infiltrate your life, from relationships to media to social groups. Manipulation isn't just psychological, it's emotional theft. It drains your confidence, blurs your reality, and leaves scars you can't always see. Being manipulated often feels like drowning slowly. You know something's wrong, but you can't put your finger on it. The manipulator, meanwhile, insists you're imagining things. This gaslighting effect creates self-doubt so powerful that you begin to mistrust your own instincts. Over time, you may start to silence yourself to avoid conflict. The cost: lost identity, broken self-esteem, and emotional exhaustion. That's why recognizing these tactics isn't just intellectual, it's survival. Every manipulation tactic is designed to bend your emotions until you surrender your will. Here's the unnerving truth: manipulators aren't always born, they're made. Some learn through observation, watching parents, teachers, or leaders control others. Others study psychology and weaponize it for personal gain. Books, courses, and even pop culture contribute. Think of characters like Johann Liebert from Monster or Frank Underwood from House of Cards. These figures glamorize manipulation as power. In reality, manipulators practice these tactics like tools in a toolbox. Over time, they refine their craft until it feels natural. That's why master manipulators don't look manipulative at all. They look charming, empathetic, and trustworthy until the mask slips. Even when the signs are obvious, we often overlook manipulation. Why? Because hope blinds us. We want to believe the best in others. We don't want to think a loved one is playing us like a game. There's also fear of confrontation, fear of losing the relationship, fear of being alone. So we rationalize their behavior, convincing ourselves they didn't mean it. Manipulators thrive on this denial. The longer we ignore, the deeper their hooks sink. It takes courage to admit manipulation is happening, and sometimes that realization is more painful than the manipulation itself. Not all influence is manipulation. Leaders, teachers, and even friends influence us daily. The difference lies in intent. Influence seeks mutual growth. Manipulation seeks personal gain at your expense. For instance, a coach motivating an athlete is influence. A boss guilt-tripping you into unpaid overtime is manipulation. The line is crossed when honesty vanishes and control takes over. Manipulation hides its agenda, twisting your emotions instead of appealing to reason. Understanding this line empowers us. We don't need to fear all influence, only the kind that steals choice and clarity. Influence uplifts, manipulation enslaves, that's the distinction. Manipulation isn't confined to toxic people, it's embedded in society. Advertisements, political speeches, even social media algorithms use similar tactics. The illusion of truth effect. That's why fake news spreads so fast. Reverse anchoring. That's why salespeople show you overpriced items first. We're bombarded with subtle manipulations daily, and because they're normalized, we barely notice. By recognizing these tactics in everyday life, we stop being passive consumers and start being active observers. Awareness turns manipulation into transparency, and transparency into power. How do you know if someone's using these tactics on you? Look for these emotional signals: constant guilt, confusion after conversations, and a sense of walking on eggshells. Manipulators often leave you feeling drained, doubting yourself, or strangely responsible for their happiness. If you notice that you're always apologizing, always defending, or always giving more than you receive, that's a red flag. Manipulation isn't about occasional mistakes. It's about repeated patterns that leave you powerless. Trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. Every manipulator has a goal, whether it's money, power, validation, or control. The tactics are just tools to reach that prize. Some want financial gain, like scammers who emotionally manipulate victims into handing over savings. Others want emotional dominance, like toxic partners who thrive on making you dependent. Whatever the goal, the common thread is exploitation. Your energy, resources, and trust become fuel for their agenda. Understanding the endgame helps you set boundaries. Once you see what they want, you'll see how every move is designed to extract it. And once you stop feeding the game, the manipulator loses interest. Breaking free starts with awareness, but it requires action. Boundaries are your strongest weapon. Saying no, walking away, or refusing to play the game disrupts the manipulator's script. It's not easy. They'll resist, guilt trip, or escalate to regain control, but persistence pays off. Surrounding yourself with supportive people helps too. Isolation is a manipulator's playground. Connection is your shield. Sometimes professional help is necessary, especially when manipulation is deeply entrenched. Therapy can restore clarity where confusion once reigned. The first step, though, is believing you deserve freedom because you do. Escaping manipulation is one thing, healing from it is another. The scars often linger: trust issues, low self-worth, emotional exhaustion. Rebuilding requires patience. It means relearning how to trust your instincts and rebuild your voice. You may doubt yourself at first, questioning every decision, but with time, confidence returns. Self-compassion is key. You weren't weak for being manipulated, you were human. The blame lies with the manipulator, not the victim. Every step you take toward healing is a step toward reclaiming the life they tried to steal. Knowledge of psychology isn't inherently dark. The same principles manipulators use can also uplift and inspire. For example, repetition, illusion of truth, can be used to reinforce positive affirmations. Anchoring can help people see progress in therapy. Vulnerability can create genuine connection. The key is intention. When psychology is used with empathy and transparency, it becomes a tool for growth, not control. You can study the mind without playing games. In fact, the most powerful people use psychology to build, not to break. Influence plus integrity is the antidote to manipulation. At the end of the day, the greatest defense against manipulation is awareness. When you can see the tactics, you can stop the game before it begins. Master manipulators thrive in shadows, in your confusion, in your silence, in your trust. But the moment you bring light to their methods, their power dissolves. Your mind is not a playground for others to exploit. It is your sanctuary. Guard it, protect it, honor it. The truth is, you are stronger than any manipulator, because while they rely on deception, you have something far greater: clarity. And clarity will always outshine control.